James Hall is a senior advisor with ACOS, the Australian Council of Social Service, and he joins us now from Sydney. James Hall, welcome. So Anthony Albanese has often talked about his early life growing up in social housing and how that drives his approach to equality. He's held the reins of power now for nearly 4 years. Is he producing the goods on making housing more accessible and affordable?
Look, thanks, Joe. So our focus at the Australian Council of Social Service is to represent the needs of people on the lowest incomes, often people who are in rental stress, in social housing, unfortunately at risk of homelessness. So when we look at what the Albanese government has done through that lens, there have been some positive steps. The establishment of the Housing Australia Future Fund, which supports building of social and affordable housing, and the Better Deal for Renters, they're a start. But we've also seen the maintenance of property investor tax breaks, which drive up home prices and worsen inequality, and also untargeted home buyer assistance that doesn't really give help where it's needed most. So, the analysis we've put out today, as you say, shows that things are getting worse unless we change something quickly. Then it'll continue to go in the direction it is.
Okay, so what does this latest Productivity Commission report show?
Look, so our analysis shows that social housing is at pretty much record lows, and we're also behind international standards. Social housing makes up only around 3.5% of all dwellings in Australia. That's about half the OECD average at 7 and a bit percent. The public housing wait list has grown to 190,000 households. That's 20,000 number growth since last year. And the housing stress is getting more persistent too. So persistent homelessness is up, and persistent rental stress is also up. So that's about the time you spend of consecutive months homeless or paying more than 30% of your income on rent.
And when you say a lot of these things are up, is that up on the last 12 months or up compared to 15 years ago?
So take the public housing wait list, for example. We've now got over 40% of people on that wait list who are in the greatest need category, which means they're either homeless or at risk of homeless. And that's increased by around 15% over a decade. Similarly, the persistent homelessness numbers, it's over a quarter of people now who are accessing homelessness services that are in that persistent category. And that change has grown sort of 5 to 6% even over a few years. So we're seeing, the really pointy end of acute need. And at the same time, a government that continues to spend more, as you say, on property investor tax breaks than on social housing, homelessness services and rent assistance combined.
Yeah, so go into that in a bit more detail for us. What is happening with tax breaks for property investors versus investment in social housing, homelessness and rent assistance?
So the 50% capital gains tax discount and negative gearing, these are the two main property investor tax breaks, and they've been driving up home prices since their operation together from the late 90s. Home prices have risen 3 times faster than wages since 99. The median home price has doubled from 4 to 8 times the median income. And they're worsening inequality because, the top 10% ranked by wealth, they already own 2/3 of investment property in this country. Yet over 80% of the revenue that we pay out on these tax breaks goes back to the top 10% of those income earners. So what we're calling for is to curb these tax breaks gradually over time, which will, reduce home prices by up to 4%, perhaps more in areas where investors are concentrated, like in inner city apartments. It'll also raise nearly $20 billion in revenue over 4 years, which can build tens of thousands of social and affordable homes.
But isn't that what Bill Shorten did a couple of elections ago, and he lost badly, and Labor's just not going to go there? It doesn't look likely they're going to go there again anytime soon.
Look, I think there's a lot of misconceptions about what potentially lost Labor at those elections. There are many other policies going on at the time, and from the polling that we see, we actually see a majority of people and an increasing majority of people supporting change of these property investor tax breaks, because people recognise that things can't keep going the way they are. When the Prime Minister was growing up in public housing, we would build maybe 15% of all dwellings we built were public housing, and that number's now down to under 2%. So it's not the same system as it was. Things have changed. These tax breaks have supercharged the housing crisis, and we really need to curb them so we can raise revenue and then put it into building homes that people can actually afford.